Hey, just making this video quick for the group and my YouTube followers. Just want to basically see how everybody's doing. Let you know that I'm doing all right, doing okay. Got a lot of good things going for me. Got to get a hold of a lot of people, though. A lot of big changes about to go on in my life. And hopefully I can share that with everybody. Had a hell of a workout today. I'll introduce everybody to my new training partner. His name is Lance. Good guy. There's a little story behind him. His doctor had him on the highest dose of TRT possible. Been on it for years. And he was making zero gains. And all these guys in the gym were telling him to buy all this shit and stack it with this and Primo and this and whatever. And I said, don't listen to these jackasses. And for some reason, he listened to me. I said, man, there's a reason the medical group even lets me tell people how to do TRT, because I've taught doctors how to do TRT. And the people at this medical group understand that I know what I'm talking about. And I had to explain to them the hypothalamus and the pituitary and SHBG and our testicular function and receptors and all that sort of stuff. And I got him to understand the importance of Humanofort, and I put him on my microdosing protocol for 8 weeks. There was a couple weeks where he slacked off. He was having some problems, a little bit of problems at home, but that's ironed out. But he didn't really work out for a couple weeks and ate like shit. He did drop a couple pounds, but that wasn't because of what he was because of the protocol. It was because he wasn't pushing himself. But since then, I put him on a blast, doubled his Humanofort, and in 3 weeks, he's gained 8 pounds, solid. And that's more muscle than he's put on in 3 years combined. And he's using 2/3 of what the doctor had him on for TRT. So he's ecstatic. He's finally learned this. And he understands that some of these bodybuilders in this gym that are talking about you have to take so many grams of this, or so many milligrams of this, and stack it with this and whatever. These guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And I used to be a part of that crowd. And I know for a fact, none of us knew what the hell we were talking about. We knew we were talking about to a certain degree, like using certain compounds that don't turn to estrogen before you do a show, so you don't retain water or stuff like that. But besides that, we didn't understand truly what's going on. We thought there was some magic dose of stuff you had to take to get the results from it. And all it is keeping your testosterone levels at their highest degree, keeping your hypothalamus function as high as it can be, and making sure, like the Humanofort makes sure that your receptors are turned all the way up. So it's like when you have type 2 diabetes, your receptors, they downregulate, so they don't respond like they should, and they don't suck up as much of the sugars and protein as your body needs, and it keeps floating around, and the sugars eventually convert to fat, and the protein converts to ammonia, and you piss it out. When you fix that, when the receptors are at their highest degree, they shuttle everything where it needs to be. And that same thing happens with androgen receptors. And it's something that 98% of doctors have no idea. They don't understand growth factors. They don't even understand how the hypothalamus system truly works on that side and affects the pituitary, and then the adrenal cortex, how the adrenal cortex suffers from that. And through that, now he used to drink pre-workouts, and now he's doing half the doses he used to, because his adrenal cortex is fully functional, and he can only do half the amount of pre-workout he used to do. So I'll introduce you guys. I'll introduce you guys to Lance eventually. I had 2 other training partners in my life. 3 in a sense, but I never got to train with Bob Brisky enough. We were just good friends, and we trained together once in a while. But Bob was a big influence to me when I was younger. He was the first real bodybuilder that I'd met, and took me under his wing and taught me what he did know. You know, back then we didn't know a lot, but we just knew if we ate enough food and trained really hard and had decent genetics that we would grow, and if we took stuff, we would grow, and knew that if we just lived on lots of meat and no carbs and fats, we'd get really ripped. And we did the best we could with what we had. But I had 2 real training partners. One was Warren Johnson. He trained with me up to a show one time, my very first show, and he actually got second place. Warren is a great buddy of mine. He's in his 60s now. If you look back on my YouTube, I think there's a video of Warren and I. He's in his 60s now, and hopefully someday I can get Warren to compete in the over 60 class and teach him some of the things that I know now. He did buy an X3. He bought a Bosu ball, and he's implemented that into his training. But my very best training partner was Pete Kacinskas. He's the one that makes the Big Sky seasoning that I talk about. Pete is a really great guy. Great husband. Been with the same girl since high school. Been through ups and downs. She had brain cancer. I could go on and on about it. There was problems maritally where she just, had no sex drive and whatever, and where a lot of guys would use that as a reason to cheat. Pete never did. He put her, he worked through it, and he's a real husband. He's a real fucking husband, and they've been together ever since. They've adopted a couple of kids. Pete's a great dad, and Pete now started taking Humanifort and understands the importance of it, because once he started taking 4 a day, taking 2 a day will give you the health benefits, but 4 a day for bodybuilding, that's the minimum. And he has put on a bunch of muscle, and he's unbelievably excited about it. And now he's starting to take the Ecti growth, which is helping. And hopefully someday I can either fly him down here or fly up there, and Pete and I can have a week where we film some workouts together. I plan to help Pete with a little more of his training, but I got him to start implementing bands into his training. He was just using weights, and I kept harping on him. And now he's, his squats, he added bands to it, and he messaged me, and he's like, holy shit, Mike. I did our old 8x8 routine and added bands to the squats, and holy crap. And that's the thing is, when you add the bands, the muscles working equally hard through the whole rep, clear to the top. There's no break. And he did some other stuff, adding bands, and he understands the combination of bands and weights, that nothing can beat that. Because bands match the strength curve, then weights have their advantages in the negatives and stretching. And I really love Pete to death. He's been one of the best friends I ever had. There was a time I was going to marry a girl. This is how good of a friend he is. Real friends are this way. There was a time I was going to marry a girl. I wanted him to be the best man at my wedding. He didn't believe I should marry her. He pulled me aside and said, Mike, I can't stand up in your wedding because I don't believe you should marry this girl. And I'm not with her, obviously, now. And he was right. And he's one of those kind of friends that isn't afraid to tell you right from wrong. He's a devout Christian, does a lot of praying. He's an incredible father and husband, and takes a lot of pride in cooking. Eats lots of red meat, and his Big Sky Seasoning, obviously that's not his main income. He still works at the lumber mill that I used to work at when he and I were trained together. When we were in high school, we were like the only kids in school that worked out. We grew up in this little shitty school. We had hardly any weights, and what were there were homemade and some shit from the 60s. And nobody worked out. But Pete and I started working out together, and Pete was very quiet because he had come from a private Catholic school and then went to high school. He went into mainstream school, and he was just really quiet, kept to himself, he didn't have a relationship with everybody. And he and I connected through that passion with weight training, and he knew that I had some issues because, growing up without a father and some issues I had with my mother. And he was there for me. I had a very narcissistic, abusive wife that treated me wrong for years and years, and he stood by my side. And if it wasn't for Pete being there, I might have actually offed myself. Pete was one of the one things I had in my life that was worth staying for. And back then, my time with Pete was all I had that kept me going. So having these thoughts, and then some of the stuff I'm going through emotionally, I starting to be thankful for what I do have. And I'm thankful that Pete is still my friend. There was a time that, right before I had my first heart attack, bodybuilding to me was over, and it was all I had. And I had incredible potential, but because of the way life went, I turned to some drinking and heavy benzodiazepine use, and I wasn't being the best father I could be, and had even said some things to Pete that he didn't deserve. And we'd talked about that, and Pete just blew it off and said, I just knew it wasn't you, Mike. I know the real you. It's funny is when I found out that I was autistic, I talked to Pete about it, and he goes, Mike, I always thought you were. And I don't know, I said, you did? And he goes, Mike, I used to always think you were autistic. I just kind of knew it. And that really warmed my heart, that Pete paid that close attention to me, that, he felt like he knew that about me, and I didn't even know it about myself, But I miss Pete on a daily basis, and if I get married again, Pete's going to be the best man in my wedding. I might have two best men, if that's possible. Bob Brisky and Pete Katsitskas. Those are the two men in my life that... Bob was my big brother. I never had a father. I never had a big brother. I never had a male figure in my life that was worth a shit growing up, that did really anything for me good. And Bob and Pete are a couple of the people that were male influences in my life that really meant a lot to me. Bob was like an older brother. He wasn't afraid to tell me off a few times. One time I was going to stay with my ex, and my mom called him crying, didn't want me to go back to her. And I remember Bob calling me and saying, hey, Mike, your mom's crying about this, and a real man wouldn't make his mom cry, stuff like that. I don't know if this video is supposed to go into this, but I just want to make sure everybody's having a good their new year starting off great. I wish the best for everybody. Very thankful for some of the people in my life. Dr. John Jaquish, one of my very new best friends, Emmerich Delsig, has become not only a best friend, but like a father figure to me. And as sad as we both were when we lost Phil, I think we found Phil in each other, because we were both like best friends with Phil, and we knew Phil in a way other people didn't know Phil. We knew the childlike side of Phil. Phil was a grown kid. He was like a 50-year-old man, but inside he was 13. And he used to tell the dumbest PG-13 jokes and giggle and laugh. I miss his ridiculous giggle. And he always was looking out for the best of me. If it wasn't for the jab, we'd still have Phil. I was supposed to donate a kidney to Phil. But because of the way things went, we lost Phil before that could happen. And that's really sad. But let's not go down that sad train. Hopefully things can keep going good. But my workouts have been going great. I am making gains slowly. I've had a hard time eating just because of some emotional things, but I'm trying to find ways to get the protein down. Having Lance has been helpful because it gives me somebody to look forward to working out with, and I teach him stuff, and I've actually helped him with his marriage. His marriage is going a lot better just because of a few things that he consulted me and I helped him with, and he told me that what I had told him worked, and his marriage is going better than it has in a long time, and that made me feel good. So I want to hear how everybody's doing, man. If you want to send me some private messages, anything like that. I owe some people in the group some exercises. Suzanne Parkos, I owe her a twisting movement that I had shown that in the gym I always do twisting because it's helping with my spine. And I found a way with the X3 to do a really good twisting movement for that, and I do owe her that, so I'll try to make a video for that tomorrow. And then shoulders and hips, I'm gonna go into some routines to really help people with shoulder and hip problems, as we've all got those. And then the workouts, the way those are progressing, and I want everybody to have the best results that they can. So if anybody needs coaching, reach out to me. I do consulting as well. If you don't have money to hire me as a coach, you can hire me for a certain amount of consulting. You can even hire me for coaching for things like, TRT, anabolics. You can hire me for coaching with nutrition and supplements. You can hire me for coaching with, just workouts, stuff like that. I work with whatever you got. If you're interested in hypertrophy based stuff, reach out to me for that. But otherwise, just wanting to drop this, and I hope everybody's doing great. Love y'all. Talk to you later.